Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever in the world that you're coming to us from. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. So glad to be hosting another episode of DYOR Live here on the DYOR Media Network. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today is August, It's August 49th or something like that. Late in the month. It's the 28th already. Oh, my intro is looping. Look at that. Wasn't supposed to be doing that. Anyway, it's August 29th, 2024. One day closer to the sun going supernova and solving all your world's problems in your life. But that's not the point. As I say, the point is we want to hear from Pedro-Damus, who called the market dump yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, in the house today with me is Pedro Garcia, the crypto chart analyst. Pedro, what is happening?
What's up, my peoples? Dude, what is up, man? Thank you very much. Thank you. The applause. Please stop. Please stop. No, give me more. No, please stop. Give me more. No, dude, it is, you know, we've talked about this. We were talking about us coming down to that 57,000 area. Our guys were looking at it. You know, I told you this is a good time for the short. I said there's that potential bounce potentially at the flip zone of 62,000, 61,000, but I was more gunning for the lower zone where we're headed to. So it's just real interesting to see what's happening.
I'll tell you what's interesting, Pedro. It was yesterday, if you recall, during the show. I said, Pedro, I got a question for you. You were talking about going down to the 50-something zone or going up to the 60-something zone. Yep. And I said, those green lines and the green area on your chart, I said, a bunch of people on the internet are calling it that we're at the bottom. 61,700 or so was the local low here, and we're going up from here. And I said, what are they missing that you see? And you're like, well, blah, 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 tell some things. And then you pointed out the volume dropping. Yep. And said we're going down. Do you know that I did not listen to you?
Shocking.
No, I listened to you a lot. And if during the show yesterday, I had a big long on, and I was up $3. Remember, I was like, I'm up $3.
I said,
and I was watching it go up, and apparently it was a bull trap because I left and went to go do stuff, and I forgot to put a stop on. Do you know that 5 minutes later, after our show ended, the market dumped to 50? I don't know, whatever, it's 57.9 or something like that.
Yeah, 58.
I was like, mother. I think I lost $25. I mean, talk about a big trade. I was like, God. I was like, mother. But anyway, I thought to myself, I said, Pedro called it on the air. He said, no, we're likely to go down into this area.
Yeah.
And the great interweb guys are all like, moon boys, moon. And nope, we went down. Anyway, Pedro, I still have a minute or two of social media stuff, so could you tell everyone what they need to do?
Absolutely. Guys, if you don't mind doing us a huge favor, this helps us so much with the great AI lords out there that govern our ability for our names to get out there or not. And they do like it when you hit that like, share, and subscribe. So if you could hit the like, share, and subscribe, as well as share us to your preferred social media, whether that be the Facebook, X, and/or Instagram, whatever it would be, we'd appreciate it. In additionally to that, if you don't mind as well, share it to the ones you don't like as well.
Using the whole fist off?
Either you're preferred or non-preferred, because either way, it's cool. Make a comment if you want to make fun of my nose, my long hair, or Tom's being red again. Whatever it is.
The sun is out again, and when I set up the lights this morning, it was cloudy. And then it's too hard to adjust the camera. It's like, I'm like, screw it. I can be red. If the other guy can have orange hair, I can have a red face.
There we go. And so go ahead and make fun of his red skin. And allow that to be, and I mean nothing racial. I mean, it's literally looks like it's red, or kind of orangish.
No, I just have red skin. That's not racial.
You know, one day, dude, when we're like, you know, we got 1 million followers, 2 million followers, and it's absolutely nuts. And be like, they're gonna bring up all this stuff, and you know how like AI, they sit there and like they can like almost perfectly match it, right? Just have you say whatever. That's gonna be one of the ones that they'll be like, look, Pedro's a racist. And so I'll be like, what? No, I swear. You know.
Yeah. Anyway, Pedro, what the hell is going on with BTC? I know we talked about it yesterday, and we talk about it every day, but we talked about it coming down. going up or coming down, going up to go down, going down to go up, go sideways, go up, down, all around. But
Yes.
I mean, we had quite the dumpage yesterday. Oh, look at that! I got Kevin upside down there.
So we have.
Hold on a sec. Let me. My system famously operates a little slower than my brain. So let me pull you guys off screen for a little bit. That was good.
Kevin is a rock star. Actually, me and Kevin were talking at the Futurist conference about the market, and we were in. Who was the guy? I forget his name. Not Josh. Guy on who works with Flow.
Ed.
Ed. Yeah.
Bobby. Oh, Ed. Yeah, Ed.
Ed. And so we're sitting there, we're talking about, and Ed was, predominantly bullish, saying, this is, we're going to see. And I said, no, we're going to see lower. And then Kevin, so I brought him, I said, dude, look at the monthly chart. Like, look at the monthly charts. Like, it's very clear. And he's like, no, that's too big of a view to look. And I said, no, the money people who have the big money look at the monthly charts. I've been in this game for a while now. And then Kevin's like, absolutely, the monthly chart is what rules, the quarterly chart is what rules. Like, and I said, thank you, my man, right? And so and so I found that it was so interesting, because a lot of times people won't pay attention, and it was one of those things that as we were starting to see it come down, at this lower level, that monthly chart, I said, we've got to come back down and test these. There's buyers down in these lower levels. So I think we're going down lower. And many of you guys know that we've talked about this now. It all depends what's going to happen on the onset of the month coming in. So obviously we know that today's the 28th. We've got a few more days until the end of the month happens, right? And in the same sense, if at the end of the month we see a big sell-off, and I see in the beginning of the next month into September, I see it start to rally up, I do not want you guys to get caught up in that, right? Like, this, because again, this is one of those things that as the market keeps moving, it's going to keep most likely going down. So if we see it go up first, which I talk all the time, most likely at the beginning of the month, towards the end of the month, we should see it sell off. So this is where we're seeing right now, right? Like, so we're closing here. We should close around in these lower levels here. They put in buyers down at these levels here at that month. Okay, so I'm expecting us to see into the next couple of weeks us to test this low up at that 50,000 area. So this is a nice little, if you're looking to be getting Bitcoin at these levels, it's one of those things that you can sit there and say, all right, I'm dollar cost averaging. This is more retirement sense for me. I see that, obviously Trump is starting to pull away in the polls. We're starting to see some, Democrats starting to kind of go over to what we're seeing with the with crypto. We're starting to see little people talking. So if we can see a bipartisan connection between crypto and the United States, and I want to bring up this Paul Ryan, and a lot of people don't like him on the conservative side because he really didn't go along with what Trump was trying to do in his previous election. But Paul Ryan was on the Bankless show, and he goes in and he's just saying, listen, crypto is really going to be the next industry that really promises a lot of money to come in. And if we can get along on that system, we can get along and push this, it's going to funnel so much money and pull us out of debt in a sense, and actually, or even fund the debt that we currently have because of stable coins. And so that, again, if that does happen from a charting standpoint, again, I'm not a fundamentalist, but if banks are seeing that, they're going to want to buy lower. And again, that's why I look at this lower level of like that 30,000, the 40,000 area, because, that area is where we know that there's a lot of cost basis here. They'll go negative. Institutions will go negative so that they can buy in at a low level. Could we see a 20,000 retest?
Yeah, hold on one sec, viewers, just a second. I'm having a little trouble here, and I need to fix Kevin's camera. And so you're going to see a little shenanigans while Pedro is talking here. Go ahead, Pedro. Sorry.
That's okay. So, so could we see some different options here, right? Like, again, it's not going to go directly down. I mean, I could be wrong. Sometimes this stuff just does happen. But, you could see a sell-off here down to these lower levels of that 40,000 in the next leg down. This area, and this is one of the ways I typically use this, right, is they'll put in lower high, lower low, lower high. So this is our third. If we continue down, this will be the third real low. So here's your first one, here's your second, here's your third, right? But this will be a fairly big sell-off, and there's nothing stopping us from 50,000 to 40,000. Just like
all right, I fixed it, Pedro. So we'll see the normal screen here in a second. All right, sorry, Pedro. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all right. It's all right. So as we're looking at this market and we're seeing things happening, we can definitely see potentially that this thing, if we start to catch legs here, we've already bounced off the 50 on the weekly. So this is weak. So I'm expecting us to see is come down, continue down into that 40,000 area if this thing does pick up legs and wants to run. So that's it in a nutshell. But if I'm wrong, expect a hold around 50,000 to see go back up to that 60,200 area.
You know, Pedro, I don't look at the longer term charts that often because I'm not really a trader and stuff like that. But that looks to me like it's starting to form either some sort of flag on the weekly candle or a descending triangle of some sort. So it looks like we're still in for a long period of consolidation. I mean, a number of weeks here before, likely the rest of the summer, I'm guessing, before Pumptober comes.
You know what's interesting? You brought a really interesting thing here. The idea of the summer, right, as it pushes up. So we saw a push, and then we saw a consolidation. The consolidation here, and I think this is really interesting to look at, is this right here. Right, this area is what we're seeing us consolidating in, and I think a lot has to do with geopolitical movements. And so right now we don't know, because it's kind of neck and neck right now from a geopolitical standpoint. So we talked about this. We talked about this around in May, right?
Pedro's volume should be fixed now.
We're not going to see much happen until probably November, right? If anything, we're going to see a sell-off until November happens. And that was around this area here we started talking
Final
about
frontier.
that. So remember I had the yellow
Welcome,
line.
Space Cat, to the house.
Oh, what's up, Space Cat? Remember I had the yellow lines that were sitting right here, and I said, once we break through this.
Did you draw a penis again there, Pedro?
Is it? No, that's not a penis. That's like a weird
tube with the circle on the end of it. Hey, I'm the fundamentalist here. I look at what I see is different than Pedro.
Fundamentalist. All right. So let's look
Not
at
that kind of fundamentalist.
So we had the yellow lines that were sitting here for multiple months, and then once we broke, I think it was right here is when I had it. So once it broke here and here, I said, okay, now we are now going to this is now putting lower highs and lower lows. And so that right here is an indication to me that it wants to go lower. This right here, this buyer wick, even though it's a solo wick, it's not necessarily, because for lack of a better word, buyers did not come in super strong. And when you look at the daily chart, it's not one of those things that I'm looking at and sit there and saying, yeah, this was real buyers. And we're talking, that's this move right here, right? This was a sell-off, come back, bounce, dead cat, bounce, boom, to come back down to a lower point. So that's what I feel, that this buyer wick isn't something that's really, it's more like Jim Cramer, as he says, where they are, they'll push it up to get people to keep buying, then to drop it. So that's what I feel is happening. Yeah.
All right, Pedro. That's a good update.
I'm going to take.
I think I'm just going to stay away from the markets until late September and Pumptober here.
No,
the consolidating markets and me don't work well. I just, I talk about, and this is a segue into a spot where I talk about our sponsor, BidFi, below here. Excuse me. This QR code here below me, right here, all you viewers, you need to do it. You need to click it, and you need to sign up for BidFi. Just start an account. It helps us out. We're a small channel here. Excuse me. It's last night's bourbon talking. But we're a small channel here, and we need everyone's help. This is obviously our show is community driven here. We exist because you guys watch us. Pedro and I have tried speaking to nobody for a while, and it's not as fun. But anyway, so every little thing helps. And signing up for BidFi down here, they're a relatively new exchange, but they have like 20 million users. Most of them are in Asia. So they have deep liquidity in a lot of things that, in a lot of pairs that other projects have very crappy liquidity in. And we know their management, so they're very responsive to us. They're a good exchange. You get decent trades. I personally have made like at least $20 using them. That's the size that I trade. But anyway, that's not the point. It helps out our channel, and Pedro and I are at that point with this show. We're really starting to bootstrap ourselves up, and we need all of your help. So sign up for that. They're a good group. You get $100 free. If you deposit 100 USDT, they'll give you 100 USDT to trade. So how about that? And you can learn. If we have, like I say all the time, we are an edutainment channel here. We educate the new people in the industry. If you're a diehard trader and day to day, this is how I live and die, you're probably not going to watch us or use BidFi. But if you're new and you want to learn, if we have people ask about, I don't even understand what going short is. Or they ask us, what are options? And things like that. And you're like, well, we can teach you about them. And we do that and you come and watch our show and we teach you. And all you got to do is click these links down here. BidFi. Use your QR code. It's also in the links in the show. For those of you on LinkedIn and X, the link is not there because they don't let you have good links in those things. So click the QR code. That's my sponsor bit for today. And now we'll move into the fun part of the show, Pedro. And the fun part of the show is that time of the day when we bring on guests. And one of the good parts, we don't have guests that often. This week we've had a bunch, or we've had one already. And it's because it gives us a chance to learn. It gives us a chance to learn about new products in the market, new things going on. And I also get to use props too. And so today I'm putting on my trucker hat.
Trucker baby.
Actually, it's my motorcycle hat. It's Indian motorcycles. But I have my BidFi shirt on too. See, I'm a good sponsor. And I'm getting my trucker hat on because everyone talks about Web3 and how it's going to change the world. And very few Web3 things are changing anything other than taking money out of your pocket and putting it in someone else's pocket. And so we're always looking for projects with utility. It's got to have utility. It's got to have utility. How about we reverse that conversation and say not projects with utility? How about we look for problems in regular industry and see how we can solve them with Web3 and with better solutions? And I met our guests today in person at the Blockchain Futures show recently.
Great guys.
And yes, great guys and all that.
Great guys.
And they have a connection. We're going to talk about this at length here to the trucking industry. And I shouldn't say trucking. I should say the freight industry, which is largely trucking, but it also is all sorts of other things. And as I like to say here, I am a trucker because I have my CDL license. But I did own some trucks for a while for the company I used to own. So I got to know that industry. Not from their perspective, because it wasn't a freight business. It was just moving our own stuff around. But I understand it, and I understand the problems of other truckers from having spent time in diners at truck stops and all this type of stuff. And I heard them, and I heard their problems and all that, and I was like, man, that must suck having those problems. And then I meet guys that can solve those problems, and I'm like, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. It's going to take me a minute to bring them up because my system is slow. But we have Maxx Chain on today. Let me rephrase that. We have Maxx Capital Solutions. We have Nayan and Kevin on, and they have developed a Web3 and a blockchain called Maxx Chain to solve what's called a freight factoring issue. And the freight factoring, for those of you that don't know, is basically getting prepaid. I shouldn't say prepaid. That's not the right word. When you're owed invoices, you can sell those invoices at a discount. So if you charge a company X to ship their stuff, and they're going to say, we're going to pay you in 30 days, and then they pay you late in 90 days. You need that cash. You need that cash in your pocket so you can buy fuel for your truck and get new stuff for mama back home. And so you can sell your accounts receivable at a discount. And that industry is large and is needed to be, we'll just call it Web3ized. And these guys are doing it. So I'm going to bring on Kevin and Nayan, and I'm going to try and do this correctly without technical difficulties.
You can do it, Tom. No whammies, no whammies,
With
no
Maxx
whammies,
Capital,
no whammies.
it's going to take like 2 more seconds because there's some strange electron delay here for them to come up. And there we go. Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, to your left is Nayan, and to your right is Kevin here with Maxx Chain and Maxx Capital Solutions. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it. Honestly, you said everything so well. I don't think there's much for us to say.
Well, we can. That's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day.
There you guys. Have a good day. Elvis
Kevin, I
is leaving
think
the
you're on
building.
mute. Kevin, are you there? Hello, Kevin.
Well,
Yeah, you're on mute, Kevin. Not on the show mute. Maybe your microphone is on mute. Anyway, let's get this party started here. Nayan, you now have this company, Maxx Capital Solutions, in the financing business, and Kevin, you're fully in the in a bunch of industries, including freight forwarding, freight brokering, and now the blockchain industry. How did you guys get into that? How did you guys determine and say, we have a real world problem here? Let's bring the Web3 solution to it. Nayan, what spawned you to do that?
I mean, there's a long story that goes behind this, and I don't want to bore you guys with all of that. And I think you know quite a bit of how we actually started, and I won't really go into that. But basically, it came to a point where we had developed Maxx Chain, which is a layer 1 proof of work blockchain. And of course, with all the blockchains and stuff coming up at that stage, it was kind of like, well, what are we going to differentiate? How are we going to differentiate ourselves from the rest of this, Web3 industry, and what can we do to promote ourselves? Kevin, having a background as a broker, dealing with truckers on a daily basis. Myself, I work at Canadian National Railway, which is one of the largest railway companies in North America. We just thought, logistics is just, there's so much within that supply chain that can be fixed. But we still needed to narrow down what within that supply chain actually had issues. And I mean, truth be told, we did some research for months, and I think I identified about 100 different inefficiencies where we believe blockchain could actually help the current supply chain. But it also became, okay, well, what's hardest to kind of get into? What could actually be profitable? There's a lot of areas that, there's just too much competition and too many big guys in the space. And Kevin actually brought the idea into factoring into the equation, mentioning, he sees these guys day in and day out. And he sees the issues that these people go through. So that right there told us, okay, this is a great opportunity. It's probably the one that has a path of least resistance for us to get into. And we were able to create this idea without having to actually tokenize any asset, which we feel differentiates us from a lot of other Web3 projects out there. So it kind of puts a spotlight on blockchain technology itself.
The little bit I say I know the trucking industry a lot, and really I'm using a lot of hyperbole and exaggeration. I mean, because I owned trucks for my own company, I didn't really understand like how freight moves. I understand how my own things moved, but I didn't really understand how freight moved. And when I first learned, how many owner operators out there really operated on such little cash. I mean, they operate. Some of them are wealthy and can afford the big trucks with the newest stuff and all that. But most of them are wildcats out there operating on little cash, and they need access to cash as fast as they can get it. And so thus they utilize freight factoring. How do you guys make it faster that when you go into a truck, every truck stop, it says, sell your invoices, call us, call 1-800 freight factor. Mm-hmm. How do you guys do it faster? How can you get money into a truck driver's wallet faster using Web3, blockchain, and your solutions?
Let's look at it this way. Imagine, you're a regular trucker and you factor with the current provider that's out there. I mean, there are a lot of players that are part of this process. There's the factoring company themselves. There's the brokerages that have to confirm the moves. Then there's the bank, right? And that's the biggest hurdle, right? Because You can be going in and thinking, okay, I'm going to factor an invoice. I got to make the 5 p.m. deadline if I want to get paid today. If not, if it's a holiday, if it's a weekend, right? So all of these things kind of tie into that. And then a lot of brokerages factoring companies will actually allow people to get faster funding. Oh, but you know what? You want to get it faster? Here's a couple more percent tacked onto that. Oh, you want to do it through a bank transfer? Well, we're going to add on another $25. So we see all these inefficiencies there that kind of put a strain on the trucker when they know that the truckers, they just want as much money as they can get as quick as possible, right? They've completed these moves, and it's not about finding out, did this actually happen? It happened. We just want to get paid. So blockchain is actually able to take that and really do that really quickly because of, smart contracts can just work instantaneously. So with our demo that we just kind of put out the other day, within a few minutes, assuming the broker has confirmed the invoice, the money will be directly into the trucker's account within minutes.
I think we even have a trucker listening to us right now, Joshua, out there. I don't know if he's an owner operator or works for a company and all that, but we do have truckers that listen to our show. And for those of you that don't really have any idea about the industry, the trucking industry took over for the rail industry in moving goods for most of the world. In Europe, except for Switzerland, it moves, 80, 75% of the freight. In the US, it's like most of the freight. It's a massive industry, and the money in it that goes through everything that you have, that you're wearing, that you're looking at, there's nothing in your line of sight that didn't move somewhere via truck. And all of that costs money. And if you can pierce that, get into that industry and provide a better solution, the world is almost your oyster because just of the economy, that the theory of large numbers. You get 1% of that market, you can have $1 trillion. Joshua says, I'm an owner operator, but brokered out to the same company for 17 years. That must mean that you have the rare good relationship with a with a company. Good for you, Joshua. Welcome, Ms. Pixel. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to try and bring Kevin on back here as well, because Kevin, I've had a discussion with him the other day at the Blockchain Futures Convention, and Kevin really has the thumb on the industry.
I'm upside down again. Can you guys hear me though?
Yeah, let me fix your. How did I fixed it already? Oh, you moved. You have a different scene now.
Yeah, I joined on the laptop this time.
All right, here. Let me fix you. This should do it here.
This is gonna be a funny show.
Yeah, this is. See, as Pedro and I call it, we're doing edutainment here. Why is it not flip? It should have flipped you. And then Space Cat is saying that these guys are the real deal. They're the real deal, but here I am presenting them upside down. I don't know why it's upside down here now. Let me try and fix that again. And I hit the right button and it still didn't do it. Normally I could do this behind the scenes because everything's all whacked with me here. All right, did that work? No, it didn't work. Oh, for Christ's sakes! I'm gonna go back to the. Anyway, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try this again here. Kevin, you've got your finger on the. I'm gonna come off the screen here, so we don't do that. You've got your finger and your thumb on the freight industry here. You deal with it every day of your life. When you talk to people about, first of all, crypto, which you also have your finger on the markets, and even a more esoteric term of Web3. Do people in the freight industry even get that yet? Is this still a new thing to them, or are you starting to see acceptance and it's starting to work with them?
It is definitely fragmented in terms of subset groups of trucking companies that may be more well versed in the crypto space than say others. Say your old timers, that have been in trucking for 30, 40 years, US based, they may not be in the adoption line or adoption zone of it, but there is a significant presence of not foreign companies, but foreign, Americans that are naturalized that may have moved here from Europe, mainly the Balkan states in Europe. They have a significant presence of trucking companies that they own that move, the freight here in the U.S. So I would say that there is definitely a presence of crypto utilization by probably some of those companies to either send money cross-border, permissionless, because they may employ back-end staff, in a different country that handles different aspects of it, but the actual trucking operation is in the United States with the actual physical drivers and so forth. So it's just one of those things where we feel that just because of the international presence of so many different trucking companies that are actually owned by so many, individuals that may have moved here from Europe, and have recently, started their MC in the last 3-4 years, I would say so. There definitely should be adoption there with regards to understanding crypto at a very general aspect. Perhaps not at the aspect of day trading and coming in and, utilizing Uniswap and all that stuff, but at least at the exchange level, right? They may have some kind of presence on the exchange level. So, but yeah, in terms of the market.
Well, I think my question is that if they're not understanding, or I shouldn't say understanding, if they just haven't been exposed yet to crypto / Web3, blockchain, that type of stuff, how are you going to explain it to them? Use our product and get paid faster. Do you just abstract all that out and you don't even need to mention it?
We've designed this to be as simple as possible for the front end user, which is the trucker. So, they're used to using these applications right now for these factoring services, upload an application, take a picture, upload stuff, so on and so forth. So our application does the same thing, and we've tried to cut it back so that there's very minimal contact for them to even know that they're using crypto and blockchain. The only time that they need to do it is when they have to set up their Coinbase account when signing up and using that wallet address. It's just that one time, which happens within the app. And I mean, it's simpler than opening up a real bank account, in my opinion. And once that's done, they don't ever have to interact with crypto if they don't want to. And those that have understanding and are savvy can, go into it a little deeper, provide a DeFi wallet address if they want. But we don't need them to interact with the MetaMask or with a Trust Wallet or any of these other ones if they have no knowledge of it. But for us, it's more, this will help the mass adoption because I feel like the understanding of what to do and how this works and the fear of losing money in these transactions is what holds mass adoption back, at least for now. And we feel like this is probably the next best way for us to introduce it slowly without really stuffing it down their throats.
Pedro?
Yeah, I mean, another point that I want to make is this.
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
When you actually, are you there?
We're here. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Here, and this is my personal opinion. Okay, when it comes to crypto adoption, obviously, we have Bitcoin now. ETFs have been approved, so obviously, everybody that is has an account or a broker account, with a Fidelity or with any of the prominent brokerages that are offering an ETF in Bitcoin, they're conversely now providing exposure of Bitcoin to their clients. And obviously that creates a little bit more of a mainstream adoption there. But when we look at adoption at a different level, down to, let's say, the individual as a trucker or even any other industry, I don't think it's going to be where all of a sudden, people are going to be on Telegram and they're going to be jumping into projects and, and trading on Uniswap. And that's not going to happen anytime soon with mass adoption.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome JB Hunt to the crowd.
Exactly. I think that the first domino that needs to fall and that will fall, that provides mainstream adoption to the common individual in the United States, will be in the form of utilizing a stable coin in some sort of fashion that literally can be basically like using dollar for dollar value. So we see this, and we see this from big companies that are going to try to push this. Just recently, there was an announcement that USDC is looking to be integrated into the iPhone with Apple Pay.
Yes.
Wow.
So
that's a big deal.
Yep.
So when you think of adoption, that's where I think anybody that doesn't know about crypto is going to kind of get that first introduction. I don't know anything about crypto, and I don't know anything about monkey upside down, Pepe, mooning, make me a million overnight. But I do understand that now I have a digital dollar, right? I have a digital dollar that literally this USDC thing in my wallet on my Apple phone is the equivalent of $1 value. And I think once that is actually presented, that will be where the actual adoption will start. And that's also probably conversely more advantageous to us because of the structure of Maxx Capital, is that we saw a problem in an industry and we're trying to solve it by bringing better financial payment solutions to these truckers. But in order for us to do that, we have to provide them a $1 value on how they already interact in the industry. So that's why USDC is the chosen path for us as the form and medium vehicle of funding these invoices, because we know that USDC can easily be converted back into a dollar or can be basically pushed into their bank account through their Coinbase account, or they can use Coinbase's debit card, which is backed by USDC, and they can spend it out on any merchant or truck stop for fuel, and it will be literally like a $1 value. That creates an easier path for adoption than trying to explain people that you're going to trade this, token that's tied into a liquidity pool, and it's going to be not, It's too complex.
Well, can I also add into that just the catapult, and I think this is really important. Just the fact that from a merchant standpoint of them being hit with so many fees in relationship to going and buying, tons of amounts of gas to fill up or diesel to fill up, right? Just the fact that as they're on the road, that when you use your transaction system, think about the money that's going to be saved, because it's it's a 3%, 2% compounded every time they use it. Whereas there's no fee here. So in the same sense, it happens in a way where not only is it more, not only are you saving money, which I think is huge, but the efficiency of it, instantly transactions that happens immediately in case something happens, something goes wrong, you can send money. And I think this, did you, when you developed this, the reason I say that all is to say this, did you think about that aspect also, the fact that the amount of money they're going to save is huge, or to me, I think that's huge. I mean, because the reason I say it's my
Nayan, you're on mute.
Yeah, no, sorry. There you go. What I was going to throw in is say that, again, one thing that we've said many times, a lot of projects create some great platforms and great products. There's no doubt about that. But it still comes to a time where they need to sell people as to why these products are good and why they need to use them. For us, we did it the other way around, right? Kevin was able to identify this niche group of truckers that use these services, and these are the actual problems that they have. Now, how can we use blockchain to solve it? One of them being, the amount of funds that they receive, because they don't receive 100% all the time, the timing and the speed of payment. They'll tell them, oh, we sent payment, but now their bank is holding it for 3 days. That's out of their control, right? With with blockchain, we're able to do that instantaneously.
And that's
we're basically able to eliminate all the intermediary, right? We're able to eliminate the intermediaries that have to be there right now in the current financial model that exists in the industry, that they all have their hand in the pocket, in the cookie jar.
Right.
And this person's going to take a little bit here, and then the next step is this person's going to take that. And it is important to also note that the current industry in the United States, when it comes to factoring, these are not banks, right? They are just financial services solution companies. They all are partnered with merchant banks, and these merchant banks, they basically love being able to lend money with risk, and it's almost like loan sharking, to be honest with you. It really is.
Yes, it's exactly what it is.
Exactly. It is exactly what it is. It's payday loan sharking for truckers. And these truckers have to engage into contractual obligations. And then the fine print states that they can get fees, imposed on their receivables that are basically completely unrelated to whatever was advertised to them with the original fee in place. So it's just the model that exists right now. The way that we've thought about a competitive edge, aside from this technology, right? Aside from the underlying tech of blockchain basically being far superior in terms of being able to send money, having to be permissionless, having to be borderless, being able to literally, send money within seconds and it's in somebody's wallet versus it going through the traditional financial system where it now has to go through underwriting, it has to go through this, then you have to wait, it's a bank holiday, all that stuff. But it's also the engagement of how these truckers engage with the factoring companies. They have so much red tape in order to be able to have the option to access funds faster than a net 30-day receivable. We eliminate that too.
Wow.
We basically are bringing a decentralized service to the truckers. The truckers do not need to actually commit to our platform in a contract. They are free to come and use it as they please, when they please, and they can go whenever they want. And we feel confident enough to completely eliminate that type of control because we feel so confident in the fact that they're going to feel they are in charge of their money.
Right.
They're in charge of their decision making in terms of accessing funding. And we'll be there to provide that funding at a faster solution than the industry already has.
Well, I think you guys talk about eliminating that middleman there for the trucker. Kind of I would say one of the bigger middlemen also is that bank in that group that holds the money for the large companies like Love's or whatever Flying J turned out to be, Pilot. And going to them and saying, hey, like, here's a good example. We had on the show the other day the Coin Us. Pedro, what was it? Coinus.io?
Coinus.
They're one of a group that is changing the way retailers take payments.
Yep.
And they integrate into their back end system so that at Starbucks you can go and pay with crypto.
Yeah.
And you think Pilot and Loves and so forth would be all over this. They'd be like, yes, we want to be able to take USDC. It's legal in the US, it's regulated, and truckers are going to get paid in it. We want all the money from truckers anyway. Give us another avenue to it.
And they will be able to save money.
Have you heard any? Right. And it costs them less than dealing with a merchant account.
Yep.
Have you seen any institutional
backing,
interest in this or backing or that yet, or is that's down the road? That's the next step.
Yeah, no, that's so down the road, and that also just brings up a good point of how raw and untapped this potential road could actually turn out to be, because there is, in terms of scalability of this solution in our company, Maxx Capital, I mean, it can be vertical and it can be horizontal, and it can tap into a multifaceted area of stakeholders within the supply chain. We could render and partner directly with brokerages. Right now the model is basically we purchase we take the receivable from the trucker, we assume the debt, we fund the trucker via USDC. That's from liquidity pools in Web3. So we're tapping into a whole different liquidity pool that's not accessible to the common Web2, the industry right now. And then we assume that receivable, and we basically then become the payee. We invoice the brokerage out. But there are many brokerages that also try to create some kind of form of faster payment solutions just to keep it all within house of like, hey, I give you the shipment, then you go ahead and bill me. Our standard is net 30, but if you want to get paid faster, we can go ahead and actually, front you the money for a discount as well. So they try to become their own factoring solution as well in-house, but they tend to use other intermediaries other than banks. They use intermediaries that provide them money codes where these truckers can then go to these truck stops and then redeem the money for the money code, that has some money sitting on it and so forth. But it's still slow and it's still over cumbersome and it's still too high on fees.
And they take they take a VIG.
And they take, yes.
Added party
is the most important thing.
But, so we could provide a service directly to brokerages in order for us to say, hey, we can white label our platform, and if you guys are interested in offering USDC to your carrier base or your trucker base, we can go ahead and do it through Maxx Capital Solutions. There are several companies that do partner with factoring companies directly just to handle payment systems and stuff like that. So I mean, aside from that, then there's other industries that utilize factoring or some sort of
sure. It's not limited to trucking whatsoever.
So,
right.
But yeah,
one of our viewers, Jesus, sorry to interrupt you, Kevin. Excuse me. Jesus is piped up again now that he's risen. So Zelle kind of works like that and no fees. And I want to point out that it does kind of work like that, but kind of is a big deal when you're dealing with money. First of all, Zelle is not guaranteed. Like I had a bank, my own bank, said to move money between accounts that I had to use Zelle. And I was like, no. These weren't accounts that were both on my webpage, my login. They were two related accounts. And I was like, no, I'm not sending a Zelle to myself. I'm just going to call you and you're going to move the money from one to the other. They're like, no, we switched to Zelle. I said, but Zelle is not guaranteed. If something goes wrong in that process, my money could be gone and you don't honor that, right? And they're like, well, yeah, Zelle's a third-party platform. We don't guarantee it or anything. And I was like, but you're telling me to use it. And they're like, well, yeah. So I just want to point out that one of the benefits of Web3 blockchain type stuff is that, the blockchain is there.
I think
and when you
Zelle
use Zelle,
is trying to compete.
Right.
Exactly.
My point is that Zelle can go wrong. And Zelle, the banks don't have to honor Zelle.
It can
it's not
go wrong.
FDIC insured.
Zelle, Cash App, all of these things, they're trying to compete more for a peer-to-peer payment system, right?
Right.
Which is very different than basically what we're doing, which is basically an actual business-to-business, it really is a business-to-business transaction, right? Trucking companies are, they're businesses. Companies, and we're a company, so utilizing Zelle or utilizing something that exists in the industry right now, like Cash App or Zelle or PayPal, they're going to obviously already come with their hurdles, hiccups, and obviously like Zelle, a great example is Zelle has a cap on how much money you can spend, and that actually is not enough to actually cover the ticket value of, let's say, a shipment moving from New York all the way to California, or California to New York. We're talking about, that could be like, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 that is, on one invoice, right? I mean, so if there was already a faster way for the trucking and transportation industry to actually mediate faster payments than the actual existing model, trust me, it would have already happened. But and it would have happened without blockchain technology. But we feel that the only way to completely circumvent all that is to actually go to this model.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add is especially with this type of business model, of course, people are so used to crypto being decentralized to a certain degree and thinking that, okay, well, no rules apply to me, right? And for us, being incorporated in the United States, we need to make sure we do everything by the book, and we have all the licenses that are required for us to run this business, especially that we're dealing with blockchain. Even though it's still stable coin, that is a very big factor for us. So we've been working with our legal consultants, Renault, and getting to terms as to how ensure that we actually are able to run operations without issue. There are a lot of questions out there in terms of what type of licenses you need and stuff like that. So like Zelle, for example, peer-to-peer, that model would not work as this business because of the amount of licensing that would be required between the parties here. So like, I'm just saying that from the top of my head. I'm not a legal representative, so don't quote me on that. But based on what we have understood right now, that is something that would come up. So there are different options out there, some of them better than others, but especially that we're doing something that's kind of, I'd like to say, unprecedented. It requires a lot of work and understanding and research to make sure we do it right.
Well, one of the things I do recall from my brief time driving around the country and seeing America's backyards and junkyards and weird places, driving it around the country in a truck, is that one of the things I miss is the good old-fashioned CB radio. And I realize we have the internet now and Telegram groups and all that. But one of the things that spreads like wildfire on CB radio is bad news and good news, or two of things. Bad news for there's a traffic accident, there's a whatever, bad stuff happening in Kansas City, don't go there. But there's good news, like, hey, did you guys hear about this? I have a feeling that this concept of being able to get paid faster is going to light up the CB airwaves with owner-operators talking about, hey, we can get paid faster, especially amongst the people that have never utilized factoring, because, frankly, the word factoring a lot of times has a bad connotation, meaning that I'm operating my company so thin, I have to do this to survive. But if you're able to just say, hey, we just got a better payment solution, and it's fast and it's cheap, the market for that will expand. More people will be like, you know what, I can do that. And I think one of our viewers misheard the general cost to people. He said 5% on a transaction.
Yeah.
But I think it was
we need to talk about that.
0.5 or 0.05 or it was a much smaller number.
It's 5% of the invoice value, and that's it. That's all. So I mean, here's the thing. Most factoring companies, if you go to their websites right now, are going to show 1, 2, 3%, and that's their window rate. These are all public privatized, corporations. That's their window rate. The moment you walk in the door, I guarantee you, unless you're some of the bigger companies with bigger volumes going through, not many people are going to see a rate of 2 to 3% in the end, and there's going to be a contract, minimum volume requirements, so on and so forth. So for us, based on the research we've done and the discussions with Kevin and his understanding of this entire industry, we thought 5% was a good number to start with, and basically that's all. That's it. That's all. So we're going to be able to see, the trucker will be able to see exactly how much they're going to get, and that's exactly what they're going to get within the once the transaction's complete within a few minutes.
Well, let me give you a perfect example here, just so you kind of understand. And I'm only going to use one or two things. So. Actually, just two items. So, say there's a factoring company. There's a factoring company that basically offers like a 2 to 3% rate right now, right? So then you compare that to our 5% rate. Well, first of all, they have to engage in a contract, so that's going to lock them in, and obviously there's going to be a slew of different things that need to ensure that have to happen, like Nayan said, minimum volumes of invoicing. Right. Or things like that guidelines that they have to adhere in order for them to consistently be able to get the 2 or 3% window rate. But on $1,000 move or invoice, you're already, let's say I want a 2 or 3% rate. So that's fine. You're going to receive X amount. But then they're going to say, well, you're also going to have to carry a $25 ACH transfer to your bank account. Well, on $1,000 value, $25 is basically another 2.5%. And then they're going to say, well, we work with our merchant bank, and since we're not really the bank, we actually have to borrow the money from our partner bank. And they're saying that the prime rate for the day on the interest actually went up another percentage point. By the way, per the contract, any variance in us borrowing and additional rate hikes are going to have to be passed on to you. So there's another percentage point on top of the 2%. So, and then you add a couple other things, incorrect documentation. Now there's an admin fee. So you can see that it may start at 2 or 3%, but once you start actually operating and engaging in business, it will end up being 8%. Or in some cases,
it's like airline fares. Oh, you want to check your bag? Oh, that's $125. Right,
exactly.
You want to sit next to your wife? Oh, yeah, we're going to get you another $125.
Exactly. So that's kind of how the industry really operates. And I'll be honest with you, you are right on the money. Factoring is not a very popular word. It's actually seen as a very necessary evil for a lot of owner operators and trucking companies that require to rely on it. They don't want to, but they have to, because it's the only option for them to access cash faster and keep their business operating. So we do take that into account. And I do agree with you that there is no other industry in terms of the individuals within it that are able to spread information faster than I've ever seen when it comes to trucking owner operators. When they hear something bad, it spreads like wildfire. Like, for instance, don't take any shipments going into this specific area, this specific distribution center for this specific grocery company. You'll be stuck there for 12 hours. So next thing you know, it's like these guys, then I'm talking to them and says, yeah, I have a shipment that's going there. And, I'd like to, can you do it for this much? Like, oh, absolutely not. I'm not going there. It's like, I need double the money. Right. I mean, it does. It happens. It spreads that way. But also when something good does happen, it definitely spreads as well. And it's a very close-knit community. Truckers really feel, that it's the most dangerous job in America, first of all, when it comes to, actually being a trucker. I mean, you're talking about long hours, long miles, away from home, away from family, constantly dealing in transactionally with so many different people and brokerages, being treated, poorly and unfairly, not only by even brokerages, but then also these factoring companies. I mean, it really is. I've always had a feeling that truckers are at a very big disadvantage of the, being part of the supply chain, because it's almost like everybody likes to shit on them. And I've always felt like it was completely unfair. And one of the reasons why I've been so successful as a broker is because I treat the people that I work with that move my shipments like gold, because whatever they do for me out on the road and a good job is completely reflective of what I'm able to service my customers, because since I'm a broker, I'm mediating that. And, it's time that we give these guys a win. And I know that the 5% may seem initially, but once you start actually diving in and digging in deep, the guys that have been hit hard by the factoring companies, they're going to get it 100%.
And since they know that, they can plan on it. They can price if they know they're going to be pricing, bidding on something, knowing that they have to factor it, they can price it in because it's a known. Yeah,
they can price it in the negotiations on whatever shipments they're paying. Yeah, I mean, you just ask for a couple extra bucks. $1,000 load, you ask for an extra $50. On a $2,000 load, you ask for an extra $100. And honestly, between negotiations of a broker and a trucker and those at those levels of price, asking an extra $50 on a $1,000 shipment, based on my experience, isn't really not much. A lot of brokers will actually pay that.
But one of our viewers here, Joshua, is listening. Said he's been up since 12:30 a.m. Apparently, he's a team driver, and his wife is the other half of the team. And so he's. How about that? Now, talk about working with your spouse. Most of us would dread that. I also work with my spouse, and I love it. Thanks, honey. But he sits next to his spouse for 22 hours a day, roughly, to driving. So good for you guys. Making the money the family way, but it's good to know that we do have people from the trucking industry listening to us. Hopefully, Joshua, you are I think you said you were driving for leased out to the same company for 17 years. You got a good relationship with them. You don't need to worry about this end of the industry, but like our friends here were saying, a lot of the industry does, and I do feel like. The market's going to expand this by bringing kind of a positive light to, getting paid. Like you said, Kevin, the factoring name, just when you bring it up, you're like, oh, that's not rump. But if you just say, payment solution, that suddenly people are like, oh, okay, well, get paid faster, get paid quicker, get paid whatever, guaranteed, no chargebacks, no reversals, no whatever.
Yeah, no.
One thing we were talking before all about the rates and the 5% rate, and how we feel it's a fair rate to be putting up there. But I think we also need to remember that this is a service that's probably going to be 100 times faster than what anybody else is used to right now. Once they see how quickly these payments could come to their pockets, I feel like that in itself would be worth, for some truckers, a little bit extra cost. I'm not saying that we're trying to, put it up there. We just needed to make sure it was kind of, in a fair range. And I feel like considering everything that they're getting back, this is a fair amount in terms of rate, and this really is going to put blockchain and its technology in the forefront to show how great it truly is. Our pilot program is what's really important for us to show proof of concept. And like you said before, actually, this may actually open up the doors to other truckers and small businesses that never used factoring before, but now can probably, tie into this thought processing, well, no contracts, the flat fee, maybe it's something we can look into to maybe, boost up our cash flows and help us in the short term.
Right. Well, I guess we've been talking about, the freight industry and stuff, but really, we could put the parentheses and say insert here for the industry. I mean, there's so many industries that are like this. The concept that all invoices are, net 30, but really it's like 45 days. A lot of companies, it's 90 days. It's just a horrible thing on the economy. It's a slowdown on the economy. It decreases cash flow. I mean, when I had a manufacturing company for a while, and I had two types of customers, the U.S. government and everybody else. And the U.S. government pays in about 3 days from submitting the invoice. It's the greatest customer ever. And everybody else was like, you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're waiting. Hey, boss, can we go buy that all these supplies that we need? No. Is payroll going to be on time? No. and you're waiting. And so this is when I speak about to you viewers out there, not just our guests and Pedro here, much of the economy operates on credit, and that credit in the U.S. is very efficient compared to other countries, but it's still slow. It's still slow, and speeding that up isn't just good for the person getting the money. It's good for the whole economy. You guys are solving the whole economic problems right here, guys. Good for you. 20 billion.
Another thing I wanted to also bring up, though, because I know we've been talking a lot about the Web 2 side of things, and obviously what it's going to do for the end user, the truckers, and then the advantages of utilizing blockchain technology. But it's the other thing that is very important to note is what's in benefit for the Web 3 side. And obviously, we're all in crypto here, so we very well understand the risks of being in this space. I'm sure all four of us at some point have either lost money or gotten rugged or something. So how do you quantify the risk that is in the space right now? And quite honestly, it's the riskiest space you can be in. So with in mind of coming up with this business and how we were going to utilize Web3, we're thinking in terms of what are some of the barriers to entry for, let's say, bigger, deeper money to want to actually come into DeFi. And we feel that it's basically risk because it's not able to be assessed unless you have a product or a model that can actually minimize and mitigate that risk down to nearly zero. So we feel our platform actually does that. Our liquidity providers, or where we access liquidity from the Web3 side, which there's going to be two areas. Right now, we're working with projects that may have locked TVL and stablecoin that are looking to deploy that and try to, let's say, get some kind of return. But a lot of them don't do it just because they understand that it's too risky. So when we have been discussing with a lot of different of these liquidity providers, this specific model and the risk that actually is in play, because it's completely unassociated by putting your money into a risky product that's in Web3 and then expecting a return. Your return is based off of actual business transactions that are derived out of Web2, where the only thing that you need to be in trust with is that we as a company do our job to ensure that we collect on our net 30 day or on our invoices from our customers in time to be able to actually provide that liquidity, that initial return back to you. Because our liquidity providers are going to actually make 2% on basically, let's say, a 30-day term. And if they consistently engage by providing liquidity month over month annually, you could compound that into about a 27% return annually.
That's what I'm about to look. I'm looking at that.
Basically
wow.
Completely.
I'm wowed. I'm sorry. Okay.
So
can you say that again?
Slow it down. I'll say that. So say I'll just use this example, Pedro. Say you got 200 grand or whatever. You got 100 grand, okay? And you're like, I got 100 grand in USDC and I want to be able to make a return on this. Okay, I'm gonna actually work with Maxx Capital Solutions and deploy that 100,000 USDT in capital to them to fund these invoices. And we will then engage in funding invoices and transactions, and then obviously utilizing our model to invoice our customers out, and then collect the money in fiat, and then actually bring it on-ramped back into our into the Web3 side. Once we receive payment from our brokerages that we actually assume these receivables from, you will be able to earn a 2% yield on the actual deployed capital. So if we deploy $100,000 worth of your capital in 1 month to cover $100,000 worth of invoices. When we get paid net 30 days on all that on all those invoices amounting up to that amount, obviously we're making 5%. Out of that 5%, 2% actually goes back to the liquidity provider. So that's 2% money plus your actual initial 100K.
That's literally
bank
repo
money,
market.
because if you actually engage and keep deploying capital, so now you have $102,000 to go into month 2, and then you have then you wait and you get money back, and then you have more after that, because you're going to basically compound your 2% return month over month, which comes out to about 27% return. And that's just based on basically us assuming receivables from trucking companies with only one catch. These trucking companies have to provide us receivables from shipments that are coming from the top 100 brokerages in the United States, which basically control 98% of all the freight market, to be honest with you. So we're not going to see an issue there. But as long as we focus on the 100 top brokerages, we're talking about the cream of the crop in terms of being financially sound companies with good credit ratings out on Duns and Bradstreet. They pay their bills on time, and actually they all compete with each other to try to pay faster, because their days to pay is kind of we all have like a days to pay type thing here. Oh, this broker pays in 20 days, and that broker pays in 21 days to the factoring company. So there is a competitive nature in that aspect. But yeah, you as a liquidity provider, you will be able to actually enter into a very low risk opportunity for yield and USDC on a 2% yield. So month
I need to jump in and ask a couple quick questions with that, because that is 27% is astronomical. That's stuff that we see in the repo market between like 1%, 2%. And granted, that's like a daily, amount of money. But on the back end, like when you look at Warren Buffett, since his inception, right, has averaged 19.8% yield to his investors, which is phenomenal over the period in time that he's been in investing. So, and I'm always about yield. I mean, I go over the prime rate here quite a bit. We go over yields, 30, 20, 10-year, 5-year, we all the way down to the 1 month, because we're talking about obviously, bull and bear markets that we're seeing what's happening. The reason why I bring this up is you're saying to me that I can give you $1 million and you'll kick off to me literally $20,000 monthly.
So let's dissect this a little bit more, because right now, of course, that would depend on the number of truckers on the platform. So just to give you an example, our pilot program,
how big is your network?
So that's it. So our pilot program, we're not aiming to grow too fast. We're going to start with 2 to 5 truckers and kind of build that to possibly between 50 and 100 truckers within a 6-month period. Each trucker, if I'm not mistaken, on average would bring in about $20,000 to $30,000 worth of volume a month. Okay, so that's each trucker. So if we were to have, let's say, 100 truckers on the platform, right, 20,000, that's about $2 to $3 million a month, right, of volume. 5% of that is what we would get back, and then 2% of the 2% of the total amount is what would go back to the liquidity provider. But that would mean, that would kind of tell us how much liquidity we need. We can't just take every dollar possible. So how we're structuring this is kind of forecasting that, okay, if we have 2 to 5 truckers on the platform over the first few weeks, we'll need X amount of liquidity, and that's what we're trying to secure and mesh it in a way that, yes, this is what we can see, but I mean, nothing is perfect. It's not like we're going to have exactly $100,000 worth of invoices flowing through on a monthly basis. It might be $50,000 over the first week. It might be $75,000 over the third week, and then it might fluctuate depending on how that goes. It really depends on the trucking
the
market,
economy,
most
right?
important
Fluctuates
thing,
on the
though,
economy.
is that
exactly. So
the economy is everything.
Whatever capital is deployed out of whatever amount of liquidity we're sitting on that has been given to us, or by a liquidity provider, whatever is deployed to pay or fund an invoice, it is a guaranteed 2% return based on a 30-day net. And in some cases, some brokers pay faster than 30 days just because they want to compete with what they want to compete with, basically how fast they can pay factoring companies. So that yield is due back to the liquidity provider, or we can utilize the yield plus the initial and just keep redeploying that back into the model. And then obviously, keep compounding it for the liquidity provider on an annual basis. But yes, you are correct. I mean, based on the basic math, we are utilizing Web3 and liquidity providers as our banking solution. They are the bank. So we're going to provide that 2% yield back to them.
So can I throw this out then? How about this? And again, so we actually, because Troublesome is actually bringing up some really good ideas, because you're going to be running into a lot of fighters that are going to come against you. Troublesome literally says, I like the idea. Truckers are waiting a long time at ports. Global shipping is a mess right now. I'm curious how the Teamsters might feel about this. Because you're going to be dealing with a lot of things that might be fighting against you because they're getting kickbacks through banks, through other organizations. Have you guys thought about that? And the second question I have is, how is your recruiting? How are you guys trying to recruit these the truckers who basically are your clients, right? Are you guys going through major companies to bring them in, or is this all basically based on just your own personal networks that you're connecting with? I know there's two questions there, but I think it's important.
What are you, a White House reporter there, Pedro?
Well, because at 27%.
Go ahead. Ask your first question. Question.
First question is this: in relationship to
27%. 27%. Go ahead.
Oh yeah,
Sorry, I think there was a little delay there.
Yeah. So when it comes to the economics, and also the third part, we're seeing a slowdown in the economy, right? Dang. So I have like three questions here. One question is this: is how are you guys recruiting your drivers or organizations to do business with? And what's the speed?
Kevin, did you get that? Are you a little?
Yeah, I got that.
I think Kevin's a little delayed here, so give him a second to respond.
Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can. Yep.
All right. Yeah. The recruitment on the trucking side is going to basically come through my experience and networks that I've had in the industry for over a decade, and also the access to multiple tools that I have, that I can actually find. It's really all public information, to be honest with you. You can generate a list of trucking companies, out of a certain area or based out of a certain area. Every trucking company is registered with the Department of Transportation. So all their information is actually public information. So it's easy to generate, lists and information with regards to being able to, create some kind of mass marketing engagement opportunity for onboarding truckers. Obviously, since we are starting slow with our pilot, it is going to we're already covered in terms of being able to get into a pilot stage. It's more about scaling after that, and it will all depend on matching liquidity on the other side. We can basically bottleneck how many people want to onboard to our actual platform on the trucking side a lot easier than, let's say, tapping into the liquidity side. But once we're able to provide proof of concept and the returns, it will be easier for us to actually balance the both. So we're not really worried about the recruitment side of things. Our actual 5-year forecast, based on our financial model that we have on our pitch deck and our business plan, is based on onboarding about 3,600 trucks, not trucks or truckers. That's like individual units, one truck, right?
Right.
But there's many trucking companies that we're targeting that are your 20 trucks or less fleets. So we could onboard 5 trucking companies, and each one of them could have 4 to 5 trucks. So there's 5 clients, but really they're actually 25
One.
trucks in their collectively utilizing factoring, right? So we're not really worried about scaling from that perspective. With the experience and also, the pulse that I have in the market, and obviously people that I've worked with for over a decade, I've moved almost 50,000 shipments in my career. So there's a lot of trucking companies I know that are on speed dial that actually are work with day in and day out. Now, in terms of the other question, in terms of the Teamsters, so the
pushback, yeah.
So I heard something about shipping containers or ports and stuff like that. We're only focused on a very small aspect of the actual entire supply chain sequence. So we're not worried about the ports. We're not worried about we're not worried about shippers, manufacturers. They don't really care. Manufacturers hire big trucking companies or they hire big brokerages to move their shipments. So they only worry about that relationship. Brokerages then hire small trucking companies and they're all about transactional speed, and they're just worried about just getting their shipments and servicing their customers. Then once the trucker has delivered the shipments, they actually don't really give a shit whether the trucking company is going to bill them net 30-day or actually go out and factor the load. They can control that part of the process. That's another fragmented situation in the entire supply chain. But it's more about the relationship between that trucking company and what he does with that invoice, and then the factoring industry, which is a completely isolated small section of the entire actual process. So we feel, based on our numbers and based on our forecasts, quite honestly, we're going to be able to fly under the radar before we really make some big noise. Right. The industry is massive. Okay. You already said, we're talking about the entire basically foundational foundational economy of how shipments and goods move in the United States. We could onboard 3,600 trucks would derive a very, very healthy bottom line for our company. I mean, we're talking about 15 to 20 million profit annually.
That's nothing.
And that's only 3,600 trucks. It's not even like it's not even a percent. It's not even a 0.25 percentage point of the industry. Not even. Agreed. So we're not worried in terms of we're going to be able to fly under the radar with regards to that. And then I don't know what your third question was. But
the third question was. Sorry. So here's the third question. All right. So. Hey man, listen, this is good stuff for our guys. And then here's the thing, this is great, also bite size for you guys. So you can sit there and push this out and put it in the social media. I have family members of mine. Actually, I have a foster grandfather who actually ran a trucking business for 20 plus years. 20 or 15, I forget, but it was around there. So, I mean, trucking is kind of near and dear. It's close to the family, at least for me. On the back end, so we're seeing a slowdown in the economy, obviously, right? Even though the U.S. government isn't really saying we are. How are you guys looking to really kind of capitalize on that? Because your pay structure, right, is going to slow down, or your pay structure and how much you guys charge, or business structure it makes it cheaper for other people to use you. Are you guys trying to wiggle your way into other places so that you can get your name out there? And so basically, what are your plans are if the economy really starts to slow down? That's it.
Kevin can touch on this too, but I'll be quite honest. We've been so focused, tunnel vision, as we said before, in getting this out. I mean, it's been less than February. Since February, we've been heads down working at this, and we just want to get the product out. So what's going on in the economy, quite honestly, for me personally, I mean, I think regardless of what's happening in the economy, this is going to provide benefit to the bottom, to the guys at the front line. And if the economy is going to go down and there's going to be a lot of troubling times ahead, this should benefit those guys in the end, right? So I think, and touching on the fact that all these guys are very close knit, if there's something good out there, they're going to hear about it, and we are going to basically just ride that wave and hopefully get through. But at the same time, we can only grow so fast. It might come to a point where there's thousands of truckers coming to us, which is great. but we can't necessarily onboard them. We're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot by onboarding too quickly and not being able to provide on the liquidity side, and that's why we designed the pilot the way that we did, to start off slowly, gradually build up, provide that proof of concept to both sides, because we have two different customers here. We have the truckers and we have the DeFi liquidity providers, right? So the liquidity providers, we're going to need to ensure that, okay, well, we're going to borrow, X amount of capital and slowly grow as we show that this works. And as that demand comes in on the other side, ensure that we have enough liquidity that doesn't, cause us any issues, because the last thing we want are for 10 truckers to come in, factor an invoice, and not have the liquidity to back that up, right?
Right. So, that would be a problem.
Yeah. So with regards to what could happen in the economy, obviously, one important thing to note is that disruptive markets are actually good for trucking and goods, because it provides opportunity for capitulation of certain players that then are able to allow others to either absorb or do whatever. We've already seen it. So since COVID, when COVID basically came up and shut down pretty much the entire United States and the world, basically, believe it or not, trucking and transportation exploded.
Yep.
It absolutely exploded. There was so much business. I had some of my best years when I was actually when we were in COVID, and there was such an influx. There was such an influx of new trucking companies that were entering the market that because there was such demand and so much supply that had to be unstuck and then moved, that it really actually just like created a perfect storm, to be honest with you. Now, with regards to opening back up, we finally now reached the peak in the market, and we have been now on a 2-year decline, watching trucking companies capitulate and go out of business and not forecasting for lower prices to move shipments and goods across the United States. So we're just looking for an equilibrium. It's no more different than Bitcoin looking for a bottom. You're going to have people that are going to capitulate, and you're going to have people that are going to hold, or people that hold that have been able to actually, manage and forecast their expenses. And obviously these factoring companies and banks are still also crucial to their cash flow in order for them to be able to weather throughout this situation. The trucking and transportation industry is very cyclical, just like basically Bitcoin has cycles. It goes into a peak, goes into a trough, goes back into a peak, goes into a trough. Unless some kind of black swan event happens or a major hurricane disrupts the market or whatever. But in the end of the day, chaos is actually quite good for trucking and transportation, because it actually raises prices. Because shippers have to move their goods no matter what, because they're dependent on meeting the demands of their customers. Now, I'm not overly, unless we have a depression or something, something that you and all of us have never seen in our lifetime type of event. At that point, we're pretty much all fucked. It's really bad. But
here's the thing. I think that's actually best for you. Through its
it possibly could not. But I mean, as a company, I can tell you this: we've created the model so simple, and the technology behind it is so simplistic in terms of like how it just how the Web 2 and Web 3 interconnectivity works, that our company is actually quite lean. Like we don't have a lot of overhead. There's a lot of automation that's happening in the process with just a couple checkpoints of just validation points, ensuring that we're just auditing some flow of information that's coming from Web 2 and into Web 3 and back to Web 2 on our model. So we can operate as a company quite lean. I mean, at this point, we're not going to be taking any, we're all working right now. We're not taking any salaries, for quite some time until there's actually, I think in our financial model,
that small business works.
Looking at maybe year 2 or year 3. Yeah, year 2 or year 3 before we even think about us. So we're quite okay with, with going into market, feeling confident that the general market could tank or go up or have its ebbs and flows, but just because we're starting at such a small level, I think we're not going to be tremendously affected.
I agree. It was funny as I was thinking about how, if let's say we start seeing Amazon and a lot of these other guys who are using the drones and dropping things off, it's interesting. We're like, oh, that's, it's 50 years down the road. That's kind of like around the corner. It's about I think at the most 5 years down the road where we really start to see drones flying through the air, dropping things off all the time, especially with what we saw yesterday in relationship to the robotic like world thing and I think it was Singapore. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening that I think we're going to be seeing. And I think your model is actually positioned in a way to utilize, because how they're going to compete with that from a financial standpoint. Well, the fees are going to be huge. So I think people are going to be looking ways to mitigate losses, and one way they could do it is through fees, and you guys are killing it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys explode. That
was in the title of the show. They're killing it. I don't know if you can see it on the screen yet, since my system's a little slow here. We have a couple trucker testimonials about the trucking industry or the factoring industry, and how they kind of suck people in. And one of them is they paid us the first week to get us through the door. After the first couple of weeks, everything was working great, and then they stopped paying us completely. And that's, like many businesses, you want to get those new customers and new customers and new customers. And unfortunately, in a small market, like when we have only so many viewers, you have to treat everybody with respect. But when you have like the entire economy and literally millions of trucks as your sales base, you can piss a lot of them off. And that's what the factoring industry seems to be doing. And bringing a solution that takes the kind of the personal aspect out of it and makes it smart contract, makes it blockchain and all that, and it just happens and it works. It is a big deal. And these the trucker testimonials that from the Better Business Bureau here are proof of that. It's just, one of the things is they didn't tell me that my rate would begin to fluctuate with the prime rate, and now it's 8% they're playing. Or we've been trying to terminate the relationship, doing what our representative asking, but he is also asking for a termination fee of $22,000. Not only do they charge you a loan sharking fee, but to not borrow them from anymore, you still have to pay. It's like, what's the line from Goodfellas when they bust out the restaurant? I'm not going to use the full word because it's I'm out of business. They're like, I don't care. F you, pay me. Right?
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example of. Imagine this. Imagine then a trucker finds a company where they don't have to actually deal with that.
Yep.
They don't have to deal with that. Like, aside from the fact that like we can get the money to you faster than everybody else, we're also offering you the opportunity to not have to actually be in this nightmare of the relationship, figuring out whether you're going to wake up one day and not be able to get funded, or now they're telling you that you're shelved, or now they're saying that you owe them money because this broker didn't pay in time. Or, I mean, do you see what I'm saying? It's just the aspect of us taking all that off of their plate and not discussing about even the blockchain technology or the opportunity for faster payments, that obliterates the competition. That in itself is already worth a couple more percentage points if they feel like, if they're looking at it from a perspective of advertised rate, fixed 5% flat fee. Like, I'll gladly pay for an extra percentage point or advertised percentage point to not have to deal with that. Oh, and then I'll also get money faster? Sure. Sign
all
me
day
up.
long. Well, right now,
and I'm sure a lot of these
Go ahead,
people
Nayan.
Sorry, I was going to say, I'm sure a lot of these people have to employ administrative staff just to take care of, situations like this, So that in itself is, you might be saving a salary. You, as a trucker, if you're an owner operator, you'd be having to sit in your truck, go through all these papers and whatnot. How much time are you wasting doing that? When for us, it's like, just try it once. If you like it, you keep going. Try it 5 times. If you don't like it, you can stop. There's nothing holding you back. And every single one of those testimonials or complaints that were written there, I mean, I don't think any one of those can actually happen with us. The worst that someone could say is we'll get a bad complaint saying, blockchain, I don't like blockchain. Like,
I don't like getting paid instantly.
I don't like
Stop
getting
it.
faster.
This is, oh, it's crypto, it's a scam, right? What
Right,
you know,
it's a scam.
that's more of the that's a general. Well, that's something that all of us are dealing with, right?
Right.
Oh, you're
Kevin,
in crypto. That's a scam.
you gave an example of one of the clients of saying, oh, we're not going to pay you because we haven't been paid yet.
Yeah.
And I remember from my old business, I had one customer who was doing that to me, and it was I used to make SWAT trucks, and we contract manufactured for other companies that sold them, that were the sales arm for them. And one of them would provide us the base unit. They had a part of a car dealership they owned. They'd send us the Ford chassis that we used. And we had a pretty good relationship, but all of a sudden they started saying, "Oh, we can't pay you yet. The money you need to do all this because we haven't been paid yet." And I was like,
Right.
"What?" But I was like, "Hold on. My business relationship with you is between my company and your company. It's not between your third parties, your customers." I said, "So when I send you the invoice, it's due according to those terms." And they're like, "Well, we haven't been paid." But and it wasn't like, it was just, there was that one deal and they had no cash. There was a big company. They had lots of money. But they took the idea that, well, if they haven't been paid, they wouldn't pay their suppliers. And I'm like, guys, that's not how business works. We have an arrangement.
That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
I know. And so I had to get the owner of the company on the line and say, that's not how business works. You have to pay me based on the deal you and I made, which does not say, you wait till someone else pays you, because then I could be up to 90 days late. And I was a small business. I needed that cash. I needed factoring. That's what I needed. Blockchain factoring. That's what I needed. But those things, that's when you realize you have a bad customer or a bad client, and everyone fights for clients. So you deal with the bad ones too. And then hopefully, what I hope for you guys is this, as we get towards the end of the show here, I hope you guys are able to be in a position in that 2 to 3 years, A, to pay yourself for all this effort, but 2, to be choosy on your clients and take the higher end people and clients, so you don't have to deal with the shitty people in the industry. And frankly, hopefully your solution works in a way that you don't even have to deal with them. It's all magic and blockchain and smart contracts and boop, everyone gets paid. The money moves around, and
we can help both sides. So the guy that wasn't paying the other guy, we can help them too. So make it easier for everybody.
So
meet Nayan, the head loan shark in the entire industry.
So I've been looking at, as on the show here, we do look at the prime rate quite a bit. I always talk about this because it's important in relationship to business and how we're seeing things go. And right now, like literally, it's 8.51%, dude. Like insanity, man. And here's the thing, Pal knows if he drops the rate, in all reality, he's going to crash the whole entire world. So there's no way, even though he's leaning towards it, right, and hoping that this actually helps, if he does, he's going to screw everybody over. And
I don't think they're dropping it.
I don't think so too. I do not think so too.
Drop it.
He screws that. He screws the world.
Hold on, Pedro. Sorry. I'm going to stop you guys because this conversation could go on forever. But our viewers
Tomorrow,
have an interesting point here. We've talked a lot about the trucking end of this and the factoring and the financing end of this. But our viewers have reminded us that this is a crypto-focused show. And they want to hear more about the token itself and how it works. Troublesome brings up something about mining, staking, etc. and stuff. Could you we don't have much time left on the show. Give us 5 minutes to talk about your token and how that works in all this.
Okay, so our blockchain, of course, is called Maxx Chain. It's a layer 1 proof of work EVM. So our coin, our blockchain coin, is called Power, which is currently listed on Bitmart, and a wrap version as well on Uniswap, so on the Ethereum side. It can be mined, of course, as a proof of work. For more information on that, I invite people to come join our Telegram chat, which hopefully you can post, or I can post it up right after. We have a mining group dedicated to help on that side as well. We have several different mining pools that currently work as well. Myself, I have very little knowledge of the whole mining aspect, but we have a great community that does. So I will defer all questions about mining over to them. But as we said at the beginning, we started this, trend with this journey with Maxx Chain. It started kind of as a pivot. Our backs were against the wall, and Maxx Chain was born, and we did it all for the community, and the goal was kind of build something that provides value back to the chain. And that's how Maxx Capital was born. So we do have several projects right now listed on chain. We have a whole slew of utilities, Launchpad with GemPad. We do have a swap, bridge, a couple other things as well. Our website, maxchain.org, has a lot of pieces of information there to help guide people as well, a great knowledge base as well. So there's a lot going there. But as you can see, with many new layer ones, a lot of things have just, the prices remain pretty stagnant over the last little while. But you know what? It takes time for a blockchain to actually develop into something. And what we're doing here with Maxx Capital, we can't, exactly say how the two sides are going to mesh together, because that is the ultimate goal. We do need to make sure we do things properly, especially since we are a incorporated business in the U.S. The last thing we want to do is cause any issues with the regulatory bodies there. So,
right.
But there is going to be something that actually happens at some point to mesh the two sides and help create those synergies that we thought of when we first started Maxx Chain and Maxx Capital Solutions. Kevin, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to also note that Maxx Chain is actually the crypto side of things are governed by a company that's based in Panama, and it's the token, obviously, the coin that's part of the blockchain, and that can be mined and everything like that. I mean, obviously, completely decentralized in terms of how the supply enters the market with the miners and stuff like that. But it's not an associated token of Maxx Capital, just because we cannot have any association of tokenization of any kind of tradable asset out there in DeFi that is part of a U.S. corporation. So Maxx Capital will eventually have its own journey in terms of how its own business model is, and in terms of solutions back to the chain, we're still exploring that. We have to do it all within legal parameters. It's our legal advisors guide us based on where we can navigate through this, through that Web3 side and this Web2 side. So, but yes, I mean, the chain itself, though, is, pretty much self-standing. I mean, it has its own mining group. I don't even know where all the mining pools are, and, they're global. So I don't know who's mining, but the miners are keeping the lights on and obviously bringing in new supply. There's a listing on Bitmart, and it's pretty much, it's its own community. So, I mean, it is a layer one proof of work. So, we don't really have a lot of control over it in terms of like the utilities that are on chain. We provided some initial utilities like a swap and so forth, but the chain is a layer one. So it's completely open to it's open source. Anybody can basically go and build on it and build any kind of solutions on it. Others can, bring in their own swaps, their own bridges, deploy their own smart contracts on it and do whatever they want to do. I mean, that's the whole purpose of a layer one anyways. We provided a foundation, opened up the doors, and now it's just about, trying to bring in builders to actually build on chain.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that you heard, that's probably our longest interview of the year, Pedro. The gentleman from Maxx Capital. There are others in this group too. We met not just Nayan and Kevin, but we met James, the Welshman, who nobody understood what the fuck he was saying. But
great guy. Love that dude.
Especially after awesome. 2 beers. They were like, what the hell did that guy say? I don't know. Anyway, gentlemen, it's been good to talk to you at length about this. This is the economy, how freight moves, and just how the whole world kind of operates here is always subject for many discussions. And this little niche of it and how freight can get financed and things like that turned out to be a lot more interesting, personally to me, and I think Pedro got a lot out of it too. But hopefully you viewers took a lot out of it too and learned something, because what we try to do here is, when we call it do your own research for a reason, is we try to teach you so you can do your own research. And hopefully this opened your eyes into other areas where you can invest on things like that. And as Pedro and I always say, we're not telling you how to invest your money. We're giving you information so that you can make your own decisions. And you should check out Maxx Capital and also go out and check their related but unaffiliated blockchain called Maxx Chain itself.
Quick question:
if you're a miner, look into mining it. Make it quick, Pedro.
Yeah, what is the actual acronym so that somebody can sit there and look you guys up? The moniker for your guys'
power.
Power, PWR.
PWR. So you heard it, guys. PWR.
PWR.
Boom.
PWR
Alrighty.
USDT on Bitmart and wrapped power. So WPWR on Ethereum paired with.
As
Ethereum.
always, the links are in the body to this, to their website, to their Telegram, and all that type of stuff. If you're watching on X or LinkedIn, the links will be in a comment following the show. Because if we post links in LinkedIn, they derate you. You have to put them in a comment. It's dumb, I know, but one of those things. Anyway, gentlemen, Nayan, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the time you've spent talking to not just Pedro and I, but our viewers and all the millions of people that are going to watch the replay of this because they're going to be so interested in it. And everyone's going to be famous. And thanks to Daryl Lawton checking us from Madrid, Spain. Maybe someday this will be big and they'll have to go hit the European market too, because the European trucking market is massive as well.
One step at a
as
time.
Everybody knows, especially Kevin here. But thanks to everybody, and thanks to all of our viewers for tuning in today. But Pedro and I are going to continue on for just a minute here to talk about the markets. But to Nayan and Kevin, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Appreciate it.
Welcome, guys.
All right, as my slow system's supposed to fade them out and go like that, I'll just give them the wave as they switch over to... nope,
Come
not
on, no
leaving
whammies.
yet.
No whammies. Whatever. Okay. You know
There
what?
we go.
I want him to come on sometime. I want Kevin to come on and talk markets because it was such a great conversation, man, with him.
Yes, Kevin, if you're still listening, we're going to have you back to just to go head to head with Pedro about the markets.
So we
'cause
can
that'll
yell
be
at each other.
That'll be an interesting conversation there. But
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Later, guys. Have a good one. Yeah, man. Great. I mean, shoot, I think somebody said this was our best interview, or not interview, but show ever. So, I mean, I think that's dope.
It was a good show. I enjoyed it, and I let that go on too long. As I like I said, I had my trucking hat earlier on. I gotta tell you that I had employed a truck driver. His name was Fred. Great guy, retired Teamster. He used to drive for Yellow, and he would do our deliveries. But Fred was already retired from one industry, and so he wasn't always available. So I got my CDL and made deliveries and went to steel mills. I used to put my son in the truck, and we'd drive to Pennsylvania to Jesus, I can't even remember the name of the steel company now. Whew. Anyway, and driving these big warehouses, get loaded up with steel and drive it home. We drove to California, drive through the Rocky Mountains, all over stuff. It was really interesting as a curious guy learning about that whole industry and how it operates. And just, first of all, how dangerous effing trucking is and how fast things can go wrong. I mean, I nearly killed myself and my son just because I didn't fasten a chain down on I had a flatbed. And another trucker came up next to me real fast. I was like, why the hell's that guy coming up fast to me? I didn't have my CB on. And he's waving at me. And he's holding up a CB radio. And I turned mine on. And he's like, dude, you got a chain hanging down in between your tandems in the back. And if that had got wrapped around the axle or the hub, it would have caused one end of my trailer to lock up. And then it would have skidded. And I was on a mountain Pennsylvania road. I mean,
oh my goodness, bro.
It's so dangerous. That's why insurance rates are so high. That I am like bright red now. And but it was so interesting. And you had to drive you had to pay attention, because it's not like driving a car where you can just kind of go on autopilot and everyone, and then you're just watching out for you as cars do.
Mm-hmm.
Trucks, man, you'd make one wrong move and you kill 20 people. And so you have to be on it all the time. But it was interesting. You really learn the country. You go through America's backyards. You go through junkyards. You go through, the places where you pick up and drop off freight are, they're not the nice areas of town. They're industrial parks. And even I would deliver to police departments all the time. And their motor pool yard is not, it's not down at City Hall where everyone's hanging out. It's out in the boonies or it's in a shitty part of town or something like that. And truck stops at night, some of them are fine. Many of them are not.
Yeah, they're pretty dangerous.
Got to learn terms like lot lizards. You know what a lot lizard is, Pedro?
I do not. What is a lot lizard?
A prostitute that works truck stop lots.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they just come up they actually, there's T-shirts and hats for them, like, you know, with the no, the prohibited sign across it, no lot lizards, and people put them on their trucks because they'll just come up and knock on your door. They'll just come up and knock. You're just sitting there in your truck, and you know you got curtains and stuff like that. And they'll just come up and knock on your door, like, "Hey, baby, you want to party?" Like, no, I don't want to party. I got to drive this. But apparently, plenty of the truckers do because there's a business for them. All types of.
Listen, I always say there's 3 businesses that will always be around: taxes. Yes, it is a business. Booze and prostitution. I mean, from the very beginning of ancient Acadia all the way down to today, it happens. So I think it's interesting and funny.
But it was very interesting, and and I was able to do some fun things with my son too. Like we stopped in Texas at Cadillac Ranch, where all the Cadillacs are stuck in the ground, and spray paint and graffiti them.
Yeah,
I've been to. I went to Los Alamos, the nuclear laboratories out there, to deliver stuff.
Yeah,
and getting on the base there was really interesting. I've been to we'll call it a secret operating base, where one day I'm delivering some cars for one of my government clients that were used and done, and they're going to blow them up to test them. And I'm just sitting there BSing with the guys there. After it took like 30 minutes to get, and the helicopters land just over the tree line, and you hear pop, 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 boom, 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 pop, 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 pop. And I was like, damn, those guys are really training hard. And he goes, yeah, they've been here all week doing that. He said, but it's normal for this base. They do a lot of training, that type of stuff. And not a month later, Barack Obama comes on television and says, I want to announce that we have killed Osama bin Laden. And then they showed the satellite photo of where he was in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait a minute. And so I went and found the satellite photo of where I was, and there's similar. And they're talking they're talking about how they built a whole model of the ensuing interviews. They said, yeah, we found out where he was, built a model of it, and trained on it. And I was there when they were training on it at this secret base. So secret that it's on the map. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that I was there when they were training for it. And then a month later, it happened. And one of the things I saw, they had 2 helicopters. They had a regular, I don't know the name of it, Black Hawk. And then the new, whatever it was, the stealthy one, the Pave Hawk or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. And the stealthy one is the one that crashed. It was too humid or something like that, or the air wasn't as thick it was supposed to be, and so the helicopter couldn't take off. And they had to thermite it and destroy it. And then the Pakistanis, of course, sold it to the Chinese to get our technology.
Well, it
was really cool. I was like, what the hell are they doing? And then I was like, I was there when they were training for it.
That is cool. I gotta admit, that is cool. Like you were there basically when they took out Saddam Hussein. Basically.
Osama.
Sorry, Osama bin Laden. I don't know why I said.
I did fart in Saddam Hussein's limousine, though. I did do that. That is a claim to fame of mine. I have a lot of these weird stories. It sounds like BS, but
no, I believe you, man. I completely agree with you. I mean, when I'm talking to the flat earthers, and I say I've been down to Antarctica, bro. Like there's no red like stuff out there. I promise you. Like no, and I'm like no, I've been there. Like in the dead of the summer where you should see that, and it's not there. That's all. And a friend of mine hates me for it because he had changed his mind, and I was like, look, I get it. If you haven't been down there, you could seem real. But if you go down there, it's totally. And so I agree with what you're saying with the unique stories and perspectives that you get by actually being there and seeing it and going, nah, that's BS. Or no, I agree with that. That actually happens, and that's a real thing.
Why is my face red but my arm is tan?
Dude, this is so funny, dude. I'm trying to, dude. It's so funny, dude. Because sometimes
even my chest is tan.
Or you're practicing to be Orange Man, bro. It's all good. Revert. It's the adjacent color to Green Man, Incredible Hulk. Or he goes off stage.
No, I just turned one of my lights off, so it's not the light. It's not.
Oh, there we go. There we go. It's all good, man. It is all good. Oh, that's good. Like Willie at the it's exactly.
No, now I'm more red. Whatever I do,
the troublesome. That is. He's like Willie.
That's it. I'm done with the red. We're just black and white now.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, that's hilarious. Oil on your face.
It's
Osama bin drinking. Osama bin. I'm sorry.
Let me tell you about the oil on your face, Space Cat. As a habit of mine, when I get out of the shower, like a lot of people, they put lotion on, things. I moisturize my face here and have since I was little or whatever. I don't do it. Like if I shower like early in the morning, I do it. But if I shower like right before the show, like I did today, I don't put it on because you get shiny. It's shiny, so my face is dry
Shine
and
like a
cracked here.
diamond,
and it's
shine like a diamond. Man.
And if I were to go try and adjust the camera, because I can mess around with the broadcast settings here like I am now. But if I go to try and adjust the camera, my system will just come to a halt. That's why we need you people donating more money so I can buy a new computer. Please sponsor us.
Oh, that's hilarious. All
it's time for me to get going, Pedro.
Yeah, same here. All right, thank you so much for coming in today. We really appreciate you. Every one of you guys who stuck around and listened. These guys were dynamite guys, great guys. We actually sat down, broke bread with them. Just legit, real men. Like just funny, real, down to earth. And I mean, I think they know they're sitting on a gold mine. And I mean, looking at the amount of money, I mean, I know people who would throw $2-3 million their way right now. What's up?
Sorry to interrupt you, Pedro.
Oh, the Irish glow. You're excluding whiskey.
Well, that's true. I might have had a few old fashions last night with my sister and brother-in-law.
That's awesome. But either way, man, look, I'm definitely gonna have them back on here in about a month or two, see what's going on with them, and kind of get an update. So it's gonna be really fun there to see just the growth. And I really do think it's gonna be. I think they're going to be a juggernaut.
Yeah, they execute as everyone knows.
Execution.
There's always good business ideas, but executing the plan is the important part, and if those guys can execute that plan. I mean, the financing business is massive. You can get in that financing business and provide something new. I mean, like literally, like millions of dollars flow your way. I mean, just look at these DAOs. And Troublesome brought up a DAO earlier. I'm sorry we didn't get to that, but like MakerDAO, people just throw money at it.
Literally.
So if you've got a better solution in the financing industry, there's a lot of money out there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got today. On behalf of Pedro Garcia, my name is thank you for joining us. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. So glad to have hosted another episode of DYOR Live. We will see you tomorrow, Thursday, 12:15 Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time. I almost made that mistake. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all. Be there. Who's got the last comment today? Who's got it? Who's got it?
There you go, right there. Who is that? All it is Jesus.
We'll go with
Jesus.
Jesus. Nope, there it is. Jesus, be safe. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Ciao. Last second, it was Lawton. He's out. All right. That's it.